Hi, all. Once again, I welcome you all to the third session of the day, which is by Noida chapter by Himanshu Jain. He's a product manager at an IoT solution at Dude Solutions. So he would be delivering a session on demystifying IoT. So just before we go ahead with the session, let me quickly thank our founding sponsor, Innovation Roots, which is a leading training and consultancy service providers helping organizations to achieve business agility and beyond. It is one of the leaders and pioneers of uh, niche publishing services and well known for content collaboration with global thought leaders, authors, and creators. You may refer to www.innovationroots.com for more information. I would also like to thank our sponsor, Agile. Agile is a product offering from Tata Consultancy Service Limited. It is a purely cloud-based enterprise agile planning tool along with DevOps capabilities. Enterprises can use Agile to adopt agile practices or scale across multiple Scrum and Kanban teams using enterprise scaling frameworks such as Safe, Disciplined Agile, Less, and more. You can try out Agile for free up to 20 users for 30 days by signing up at agile.io or reach out to us for any inquiries or exclusive product demos. Check out the Agile page on Agile Network India website, and also the link is posted on the chat box. Quick do's and don'ts for all our participants. I would request everyone to join the event 5 minutes before the start time. Kindly request you to use high quality speakers and headphones for better sound quality, and please keep your microphones muted and videos disabled, as this may cause disturbance and bandwidth issues. Questions will be taken via chat box. Please enter your questions in the chat box at any point of the time during the session. And at the end of the session, our facilitator or moderator will help and read out few questions to the speaker as per the time availability. I would highly recommend you all to fill in the feedback form after the event, which will help us understand more about the event management. We appreciate your cooperation. So with no further delay, let me call upon Himanshu onto the video and microphone. Over to you, Himanshu.
Thank you. Thanks, Navina. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Himanshu Jain. I've been introduced by Navina. I'm working into the IoT solutions stuff for the last couple of years. A brief about me: have about 17 years of experience in engineering and management, graduate by education. Have been working on the Agile front for about 11 years now, and into the IoT solutions for about 4 years now. This talk today that we will be going through is essentially about introducing the concept of IoT, talking through the key use cases, how IoT delivers value to business, what components are formed in the IoT ecosystem, and if you want to join the IoT bandwagon, what is that you should consider. So let's begin with what is IoT. In a simple term, IoT is a system of interrelated and interconnected objects that collect and transfer data over a wireless network without human intervention. So it's as simple as that. The term is too glamorous for the last few years, IoT, 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 but it is essentially, your mobile phone is a very, very high-end IoT device that you have in your hands for last maybe 10 years now. So it is a system which is able to collect data, transfer data over a wireless network without human intervention. In basic terms, that's what IoT is. From a conceptual model point of view, IoT has three main blocks. One block where you capture data. That's where the whole story starts in IoT, capturing of data. The second block is you process that data and make certain decisions based on that data. You convert data into information in this block. And the final block, some actions are taken on the information that you have processed out of the data that you've captured. These flows in the actual implementation comes down to capturing data is either through an IoT device or through a smart machine or through a smart object. It could be your mobile phone. It could be your refrigerator sensor. In the B2B world, it could be smart street lights. It could be smart machines. which are having embedded sensors, those actual hardwares, which are collecting data, processing that data into a microcontroller or a microchip that's very near to that physical device, and then using a wireless communication protocol, which could be a Wi-Fi, Zigbee, Bluetooth, LoRa, LTE. It sends that data for decision making and data processing. When that data is received in a system, which typically is a cloud-based system, so that you can connect to devices without having to worry about you know closed connectivity, you check for an event. What is an event? So the data has come into the cloud system, and then you see, okay, there's the data flowing, data flowing, data flowing, data flowing. But then there's something which is like, oh, there needs to happen something around it. For example, if you are having a temperature sensor in a smart refrigerator, in your microwave oven, in a smart machine, or anywhere else, and those different machines or equipments have a booklet, a manual, which says this is the safe operating temperature. If it goes below or above that temperature, it means the machine is not functioning properly. There's some problem with it. So that becomes your threshold, which you may want to detect, that if the data that's coming in is outside these control limits, there needs to be an action. So you have processed that data into information, and that information is that the safe limits is breached. Then on to the right, there is an action. What happens? So, okay, the system has detected that the threshold has breached, either on the upside or on the downside. The action could be as simple as you get a SMS, you get an email. In case of B2B systems, it could be a dashboard, which is talking about, it's a warehouse which has a lots of refrigeration systems, and if the temperature goes above, let's say, -4 degrees C, that means there is a risk of the foodstuff going bad. So there's a big dashboard in the control system which immediately notifies the supervisor, who will take swift action. Or in even further advanced connections, in case of smart machine, smart factory, smart city environment, these could be final systems which are application systems which will trigger a workflow. For example, in case of, again, this warehouse, if there is a system of triggering a workflow around that, a refrigeration mechanic needs to be told about a particular refrigeration system reporting a temperature above -4 degrees C, and we have that application which is called an asset management system, maybe, and it says if refrigerator goes bad, these are 5 things that you need to check. So an action gets triggered into that system from this cloud, and it will trigger a workflow, and the mechanic will be notified to go and do the preventative inspection and correction of that system. So this is how the ecosystem flows from left to right in most cases. As we are evolving in IoT, there is an increasing appetite for the data to flow from right to left, wherein you want your air conditioning systems in a B2B world to be controlled by a touch of a button. That right to left is already pretty prevalent in the home automation systems, wherein through the app you can control your smart assets, you can control your lights, you can control your security systems, you can control your door locks. But in B2B systems, it's evolving. So it's a bi-directional movement of data that's happening from the data capture, that smart machine, into the end system, or from the end system into the smart machine. So what the way I see IoT is, and the way quite a lot of people have told what IoT is, it is a true IT. It's a true information technology. It's something that's converting. It's a technology that's converting data into information, into meaningful information to take those actions. Now, how big is it? I mean, okay, yeah, IoT, 3 blocks, collects data, sends it wirelessly. I see some people using it, but is it really big? Is it really that much of a big thing that I should pay attention to it? So there are some statistics to say. So as per the graph on the right, it says, so this is a 2020 report, end of 2020, early 2021. It says the market of IoT in 2025 will be $1,567, not in thousands, not in millions, but billions. So 1,567 is going to be the market size of the IoT ecosystem. Now that's just what the IoT ecosystem will be. It's about the various components that will be sold, the various services that will be sold. That size is 1,567. If you refer to the information on the left, it says there will be about 64 billion IoT devices in the world wide by 2025. And the third bullet says IoT has a potential to generate $4 trillion to $11 trillion in economic value by 2025. So 1,567 billion is the size of the IoT market itself, but the value that it will generate in the whole economy is between 4 to 11 trillion. Now 4 trillion is not even the size, of the full Indian economy. So you can imagine the size of economic value that the statisticians are talking about in the next 4 to 5 years. And the main driver, the majority of use case around enterprise IoT project is cost saving. So in a B2C environment, which is like us using mobile phones or smart watches or smart TVs, it could be more like entertainment quotient, good living, standard of living, and all that stuff. But in the enterprise market, which is like factories, smart cities, big enterprises, the main driver is efficiency, cost saving. So this is really big. It's already big, but it's not at the plateau. It's as a hockey curve. It has just kicked in to really take off. So what are the key use cases around the IoT world? There are many. There are absolutely many. This is just a representation of the most prevalent use cases in the IoT world. So the first one is smart homes. Smart homes, I think a lot of us may have already been exposed to that use case. You may have Alexa and other, smart speakers at your home. Mobile device is already in everyone's hand. You may have, smart lights provided by these companies like Philips, Wipros, and the new age internet companies, which are giving you those lights which can control from your app in the mobile system. The door lock security access has been there for quite some time. Some of you who may be living in apartments, high-end apartments in those high-end cities, they come these days with the door locks, which are completely sensor enabled. So you can actually fingerprint, register the people who can enter the house. You can actually control when you allow that lock to be open or closed. So just beyond being able to open the door lock at a click of an app, it is a lot more that these door locks and security systems are now providing. Then if we talk about a smart city landscape, smart city is again an absolutely big project, not at the India level but at the global level. There's so many cities across the globe who are going into the smart city. Now smart city is a very loosely used term. I will accept that. It can, so what is smart city is a very different topic of its own, but I'll just spend maybe 15 seconds on that. So if you are in a place where your roads are not good, your drainage system is not good, if that starts functioning correctly, it has become a little smarter for you. So, but if you're living in a very, very high-end city, which is already very clean, very smart, then you actually talk about, you getting notifications on your mobile app by the municipal corporation about there is a pothole, that road is closed today, please take this diversion. There are smart drainage systems which automatically tell the municipal corporation that this drain is running full, go someone to maintain it. So it really depends, what continuum on that smart city we are at this moment. But in the context of IoT, the smart city use cases are about smart street lights. We see some of that in our lives today, which is basically the street lights get switched on and switched off based on the illumination around, based on the sunshine around. But there is a lot more to that use case, and I will keep that smart street light with you, and that is something we will talk through in the subsequent slides to build upon all the IoT value and the IoT components. Then smart drainage I talked about, which is about, there are smart sensors which you can put on a drain, and they will tell you if the drain is running full. So rather, before it actually overflows, someone in the municipal corporation is notified and he can come and de-silk the train or de-choke the train. Smart buildings, which is about, okay, if a particular lift is bad, you already know that it is bad, and before you enter the building, you know, I don't have to take a lift A, but a lift B, or the lift A and B are in the service, not in service for two hours, and so on and so forth, and so many, you know, automatic HVAC control systems. Smart environment monitoring is about, you know, these sensors that are being installed for how much of the pollutants are in the air and all that stuff. So smart city is a real big story that's playing out in the world. The right side, smart manufacturing. This is really something which entrepreneurs, you know, the factory people, they have really taken it big and thick, especially in the manufacturing. You know, automobiles or high-end systems, or even, you know, even the small confectionery manufacturers, they are making the machines smart. And when we say machine smart, is they typically want to control, not really control, they typically want to understand the condition of their machine without someone having to go and see what the condition is. So till maybe 5-10 years ago, there was an LED screen on the machine. Someone would walk down the aisle in the factory and look at the LED and say, oh, temperature is running high or vibration is running high. Let's, you know, switch off this machine and check what it is. Which means actually the machine was still having the sensors in it, and it was just displaying the data that it was collecting there. Now you have the machines not only collecting data but also reporting data. And again, if you go back to the 3-block diagram, that reporting data is notified via SMS, email, dashboards, or smart asset management systems so that the corrective action can be taken. So the first one on the left is a B2C use case, which is about individuals. Smart city is more like a government utility kind of use case. Smart manufacturing is more like a business use case. So that's why I wanted to cover these three, which are very different flavors of the zone, but then there are many more. Okay, so now we have talked about what is IoT, what are the 3 blocks of an IoT ecosystem: capture data, make sense out of that data, take an action. We've talked about the key use cases. In one of the smart city use case, we talked about street light. Now, how an IoT system generates value? We talked about cost saving. Okay, that's like the monetary part of it, fair enough. But where is actually that happening? How is that happening? So the value in the IoT system typically is around these 4 areas. There may be more. Again, my talk today is focused more towards enterprise B2B systems. I am not that much focused on your B2C like smartwatch and mobile phone system. That's a very different value proposition. So in a B2B enterprise model, the value typically comes around either you make your product better, you operate your product better, you service your product better, or you make new product or a new solution. These 4 are equally applicable to even the B2C use case. Now let's look through how this value on these 4 different parameters is actually delivered in one of the use cases. Take that street light. So if you are in Noida, and if Noida, you know, corporation has purchased smart street lights from Philips, okay, sounds good. Smart street light, but what's good about it? What's so smart about it? Why would Noida authority buy it? Will Noida authority buy it just because, you know, there's a word smart in it, just because Philips have come up with something which is very expensive, just because it's a flashy word in the market and citizens may feel, wow, something smart has been put in. That could be a novelty or a, you know, messaging factor. But essentially, in that street light, how is that product has been made better over a traditional street light? That street light can illuminate based on the intensity of the sunshine. So if there are sensors inbuilt and those sensors control the current flow that's happening into the street lights, or they can control how many LEDs to switch on, switch off within that LED matrix based on what's the sunshine luminosity around. What it does is it saves money to Noida Authority because they don't have to lit a street light a lot more in summers 7 p.m. versus in winters 7 p.m. So you have made your existing product better just by having those sensors talking to a an illumination capturing sensor connecting to the LED control. You've introduced that concept, you have saved money for Noida Authority. The experience for the citizen does not change because they still get enough shine on the road. The second, operate your product better. Same street light, you can control the intensity by schedule. What does that mean and how is that different from make product better? Make product better is about, in this case, it will just look at, the sunshine is high or left, low, and it will illuminate it more or less. In case of operate product better, if those street lights are around a theater, for example, and this theater runs a show between 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Typically, or maybe let's say 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. It's a late night show that happens. So the locality in general goes to bed around 9:30, 10 p.m. So you don't need to really keep these street lights switched on at the highest luminosity after 10 p.m. You can, make them a little low in the intensity. But you again also see that when the people are getting into the theater, getting out of the theater, that's the time you actually want to make the area feel very safe. And you want the area to be nicely lit. So all those street lights in that area, you can schedule remotely to say, in this particular area, these 50 street lights, I want to run at full luminosity between 9:30 to 10:30, or let's say till 10:30, but between 10:30 to 12:30, I'll reduce the luminosity. I'll change the luminosity back to full between 12:30 to 1:30, and then again dim it down. So what are you doing? You are operating your product better, still saving money, because you are saving 2 hours of electricity by reducing that luminosity. Service product better. This is remote diagnosis and health check. So if a particular street light is reporting that it's not properly functioning and it's coming into your browser system, there's an application which you can run on your laptop or in a excuse me, on a mobile, then you can remote diagnose it. You can actually go and run the health check based on your application right sitting in the office without having to go to the street light and inspect. And you can figure out what the fault is and dispatch your crew with the exact rectification of that fault. Is it the pole wiring at the fault? Is it the LED at the fault? Is it the control system at the fault? You can actually remote diagnose it. Make new product or new solution. This is an important use case that's coming to life, not only in this one, but in a lot of cases. This is a machine to machine interaction that's happening in these cases. So for example, the same street light, it's in a flood prone area, or let's say it's an area which gets lots and lots of rainfall. Now, in addition to the smart street light, you can install a smart drain cover. Now, this black drain cover that you see, this is actually happening in the world, is a smart drain cover. This drain cover has infrared sensors within it, and it has a thick fat battery and a SIM card. And this drain cover is sensing how far from the top of this drain cover is water, how much is the obstruction in that grooves of the drain cover. It is reporting that back in an application, and that application is also governing the street lights. And then you can program your application to say, if the distance from top of the drain cover is just like less than 1 centimeter, which means this drain can anytime overflow, you want to switch on your street lights as the highest luminosity so that people can really see that there's a potentially a water flow happening, and they do not take their vehicles or do not go barefoot in that area and have a bad experience. So you have come up with a new value proposition, a new solution where a machine is talking to another machine based on sensors, and you are controlling the luminosity of your street light if the drain sensor is reporting that it could be overflowing. This is something that's quite a few places in Europe. It's actually installed by the municipal authority. So you can make your product better, operate your product better, service your product better, make a new product solution. This is how This is how these municipal corporations generate value. What's the value in the bottom right in make new product solution? There are provisions in the developed world that if you are not able to make your roads safe, the citizens can sue you. So you make them safe by illuminating it and telling that, okay, no, this is overflowing and we have really make it lit good and it is safe for you. So we've understood the 3 blocks of IoT. We talked about the key use cases in the IoT world. We've talked about the value through the IoT. Let's talk about what are the various components, as in the actual solution components. So when we talked about the device capture, data capture, there has to be a device. That device could be a smart device, an inbuilt sensor, which could be like in the street light system, it could be a sensor within the street light. It could be a retrofit sensor. For example, if you do not have a street light which is currently smart, you can actually install a sensor, purchase a sensor which can capture the illumination from the sunshine, install it on the street light, get that to send data to your application, and then your application controls the street lights. So it's a retrofit sensors. You can have gateways. So if you are using in the manufacturing world, there are some proprietary protocols which cannot talk to the internet. So you have gateways. Then this device has to communicate. This data that is capturing here in this device has to communicate to a system. There are various communication methods. You can go for from low speed short range to a high speed high range system. So low speed short range, excuse my spelling mistake there, is a Bluetooth Zigbee. High speed high range systems are LTE, which is your 4G data networks, or LoRa systems. High speed low range is your Wi-Fi networks. Depending upon what's the use case, you choose these communication networks. The parameters to choose from is how expensive that system will be based on how much you want. If it's a very low speed low range system, pretty less expensive. But it's a high speed high range. For example, in case of LTE, you actually have to buy a SIM card and pay a subscription of few hundred rupees every month, which over a period of time for many devices could be more. So you really choose what's your use case. Then the data goes into the cloud platform. That's that middle block where the data gets collected. You need a system which is able to collect that data, store that data lakes, and all those technical concepts. And then that's where the cloud systems come into play. By and large, AWS, that's an Amazon offering, Azure, that's a Microsoft offering, and GCP, that's a Google Cloud platform. These are the public clouds that are available, which provide their own IoT platforms, and you can connect your devices to these platforms, collect data, build rules on top of that. Or you can have your own private cloud if you really don't want to go with the public cloud. But typically, these public clouds give you a very good jump start. They give you a good entry point, low cost. And then finally, it is the application, the rightmost block in that 3 block diagram. This is where you have your dashboards, you have external systems, CRM systems, asset management systems, notifications. Now, in all these components, when you are talking about an IoT system, whether you're choosing a device, a communication protocol, a cloud platform, or an application, the security and the user experience is running through all over. That is something that cannot be compromised. You have a compromised user experience. When I say user experience, it is not only about the look and feel. It is about how the humans will interact with this ecosystem. How do I interact with that hardware if I have to? How do I interact with the cloud platform? How do I interact with the communication gateway? And inserting SIM and taking that out. So the entire user experience. Security is a big thing. Is my data getting compromised? Is my cloud system getting compromised? It's absolute paramount. You cannot ignore that. So once you've understood this IoT solution components, if you now want to embark on a journey with the IoT world, and if you're good in one of these components that we discussed about in the last slide, good. But do not jump the gun. Do not fall in love with your technology. Do not fall in love with your expertise. Fall in love with the problem. Fall in love with what is that you will be valued for, or your system will be valued for. How will you bring value to your clients? Because my business will generate value and business and money only if I'm able to deliver that value to the end client. I may have a super nice technology, doesn't matter to my client. They are worried about their problem. How do I solve that? So understand the persona, define the persona. Who's the persona you are targeting? If it's a B2B system that you are into, if it's a smart city, who is the buyer? Who is the user? Are you selling it to a junior engineer, or are you selling it to a political sponsor? Who is that someone who is going to buy your system? What is the problem that they're trying to solve? Okay, I have very sophisticated communication gateway protocols and all that stuff, but all that municipal commissioner cares about is, can you give me real time nice dashboards so that as soon as I see a problem or my staff sees a problem with a street light, it can be quickly dispatched. I don't care what you're using. So the technology that you bring to table, we have a 5 year, we have this, very high range communication and all that stuff. He says, I don't bother. Is the dashboard looking nice? Because when an MLA comes in, I can show him, wow, what a dashboard. It's a real time thing. So understand the persona, and where in that journey is your sweet spot. Then with that persona is define the user journey. How will that whole persona and of users and buyers will interact with your system, right from onboarding, right from purchase to onboarding. So in case of selling smart street lights, for example, how will that street light be installed? Will you be installing it? Will they be installing it? Will you get someone to install it for them? Are you actually someone who is providing street light, or you are someone who is providing just the cloud platform in between? What's the user journey? Define that and understand that user journey. It's very, very important. Then come to technology, because you have solved in your mind, on your whiteboard, who I'm selling it to, why am I selling it to, why are they buying it, what will be the various touch points that I will have or my company will have with my user and buyers. Then it comes to technology. From a client point of view, normally all they're interested in technologies, it should work, it should have good performance, as in warranty is fine, they work properly. They don't care, what technology is it, a Bluetooth or a Zigbee or a Wi-Fi or a Cisco network or some other network. As long as whoever is approaching them with a solution makes them feel comfortable and confident, that's it. So solve technology for yourself. But when you solve technology, you need to understand how will your hardware interact with the software? How will you make the system secure? What kind of communication protocols are you going to use? Will it be a REST-based interaction, MQTT-based interaction? It's getting a little technical in this here, but then that's what you need to solve. That's where you need to have good technical architects who are in your team to do that. Then it's about the data strategy, because IoT, as much as IoT is about taking event detection and anomalies and trigger action, a long-term gain on IoT is machine learning. That's the 10-year, 20-year plan on IoT. That's why this new term data is the new oil. And that new oil, the oil well of that new oil are these small smart devices that are embedded everywhere now and collecting that, drops of oil, and that petroleum is getting collected. So you need to collect that data petroleum. You need to know how you will store it, so that if 3 years down the line, 2 years down the line, you have enough data, how can you make sense out of the data? Are you classifying that data when you're storing it so that, the machine learning statistics algorithms can be run on them when you want to. So solve that technology. It may not be as important for a client, but that's going to give you that hockey curve, exponential growth once you have settled in with the clients for 3 years and you have a reasonable base of people who are using your technology and your products and solutions. And then finally, your plan to monetize, because okay, I'm solving it, there's a great value for my people, I'm giving it with a great technology, but am I going to make money? At the end of the day, that's what everyone is doing. If I'm doing job or if I'm working, that's what I'm in for. So how will you sell it to your users? Will it be a one-time purchase model? Will it be a SaaS, software as a service, or a solution as a service model, or a hybrid piece? And then what will stick with customers and keep your business also viable? So if you are looking at the data-based machine learning, artificial intelligence modeling in relatively short time, which is like, and I would say three years is a short time for that plan, then you can price your systems to capture data. So you can have almost like a predatory pricing where you just kill the competition, you take the hard hit, but then you're very sure in 3 years I'll have data which will give me capability to bring models which I can then sell back to the customers and make money out of it. Now, what is model, for example? So a model in case of the smart city world is, if I can take a picture of a tree, if I can take a picture of a tree, which will then tell the horticulture department of that municipal authority straight away, oh, the tree has this problem. It is, bitten by termite, or it is the tree is bent a little too much, or the crown of the tree is too spread. That horticulture is a science. It's like, people who are curing the trees. Today they have to actually send people to figure out what's happening. But if the picture can tell me, that's wonderful. How will the picture tell me? The picture will tell me if I'm able to initially sell the systems where people just submit the picture, report the problem, citizens report the problem, and automatically I have thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures which are already classified at time of submission. This is this problem, or at the time of the data, decision making in the back end by those people. But then because the data is in the cloud, I can use that picture and something called computer vision technology to monetize that, make a model, create a library, push it down to the mobile system. So the next time a picture is clicked, it already knows what problem it is. So what it does, it saves time, resource, and efficient money for that municipal authority to figure out what is the problem. They simply go and correct the problem rather than detect the problem. So finally, the slide is, okay, all great. You are very competent in some areas of IoT. You understand IoT. You are able to create value. Do not reinvent the wheels. The solution that we talked about, data capture, data processing, and action, there are people who are very, very good in each of these areas. Find your sweet spot. Find what is that you are good at. Are you good at bringing those embedded hardware sensors, which you can then case up in the good form factors, which last long, which are waterproof, which will not break down in the harsh conditions? Or you are more like infrastructure provider who is more into like cloud networking. You are an Airtel type of company or an AWS type of company, or you are mostly into actions. Are you like Salesforce? Are you like SAP systems? Who are you? Where is that value? And find that where your value is, and depending upon, if you are hardware provider, which is the like bottom three rows here, if you are the hardware provider, build the data capture capability. There's no dearth of that requirement. Don't try to build the data processing models and the action systems. Build the data capture model, and then partner. Find partners like AWS, like Google, like Azure, and like SAPs, and like Salesforce, and build adapters with them. Build integrations, off the shelf adapters. So there's a solution bringing up. So if SAP goes out in the market in this case, and for example, my company is Himanshu Jain company, and then I say, okay, they say, we have partnerships with many, and Cisco is one, Himanshu Jain company is the second one. So I'm automatically being sold by SAP because I have an integrated off-the-shelf adapter with them. Let them play where their core competency is. Let me play where my core competency is. If I'm a platform provider, if I'm an AWS, GCP, or Azure, I won't worry who is building the hardware. I won't worry what SAP is doing. My core competencies, I can provide connectivity endpoints to both, and I will help you manage trillions of data bytes every day. I'm performant, I will auto scale, I'm secure. That's what my core competency is. If I'm an application provider like a Salesforce, like a again SAP, I am not interested in making those hardware systems. I am also probably not interested in the infrastructure because my core competency is in asset management, workflow automation. Then I'll partner with people like AWS, and also partner people like Himanshu Jain company on the hardware side, for example, and the Cisco's on the, and then build the solution. So go with the solution approach, but do not overburden yourself that I have to build the entire solution. You do not have to. You should not. You should only do what you are good at, build that competency. The whole landscape is evolving so rapidly. If you're good at data capture today, there may be someone who is doing it even smartly tomorrow. If you're good at application systems, you never know, the new age SAPs and Salesforce may come, and the old age SAPs and Salesforce will find it struggling. That classic Kodak versus Sony versus mobile phones example, or a classic, Nokia versus Samsung example. So just focus on your core competence, work hard on it, innovate on it, find partnerships, and just build that solution ecosystem. That is pretty much I had to cover for the day on demystifying IoT. I think I'll sum it up. So IoT is an interrelated, interconnected system wherein the data is collected, processed, transferred, and action taken. Now, the value that you create, that out of the many use cases, there is a B2C use case, smart homes. There is a government utility kind of use case, smart city. Then there is a manufacturing or a factory systems use case, which is smart machines. Then how the value is created. Imagine that street light. Operate, you make your product better. It can turn on and off based on sunshine. You operate it better. You can schedule based on various times and what's happening around that area. You can service it better. You can diagnose the problem and dispatch for correction rather than detection. You can make a new solution together by combining a machine to machine interaction wherein a smart drain is collecting the water clogging information and relaying it back to the street light, and based on that the street light illuminates so the road is safe. And then what are those technical components? You have a hardware device. It could be your inbuilt sensor, it could be retrofit sensor, it could be gateway.
So, first question from Rohit Joshi. He asks, as we know, IoT devices are rapidly becoming appear everywhere, while IoT services are becoming pervasive, but vulnerabilities, treats, attacks also keep increasing. What's your view on cybersecurity aspects towards IoT? Is there
Yeah,
any security standards?
right. So first of all, yes, you are right. Security is absolutely paramount, and that's why, if you remember that one slide I would have shared, if I would have been able to, share my laptop, wherein I talked about device communication, cloud systems, and applications. There was a horizontal layer at the bottom where I talked about security and UX. So security and UX is like absolutely non-negotiable. It has to be there at each layer. Now, what are the standards? There are multiple standards at each point. So if you are, communicating through a cloud system, it has to be a protocol based, like MQTT is an important protocol that you should be having. That protocol should be properly secured. You should have, secured keys in your device, and those keys, when they talk to the cloud, they should be auto rotating and should be auto updated in the device system. Similarly, when you're talking from the cloud to your application, that has to be properly authenticated and authorized through an API key or through an authentication mechanism. So yes, it is very, very important. Authentication access control is one way. The other way is data throttling. So even if you have authentication, you don't allow a device to push in more than a particular amount of data every second or every minute, which is when, if the key gets compromised, your system will not be under a DDoS attack, in any case, a denial of service attack, because it won't be bombarded. So yes, there are many ways, and it's very, very important. You're right.
So yeah, then we have one more question from RC Goyal. So he says, any example of upcoming Indian smart city effectively using IoT, and to what extent?
That's a very subjective question. That's why when I touch the smart city thing, I say it's a different beast in itself. But with the smart city program, if you go to the website of Government of India, there is a specific website dedicated to smart city. I can figure that out and send it a quick Google search, or maybe someone from Agile Noida can get back to you. There are a lot. I know Trivandrum is really forward on that. They're doing a lot. Jaipur is doing something. In Haryana, Karnal is doing something. Lucknow is doing something. What is happening in India is, I think IoT is, smart city is more like a buzzword. It has become a mechanism of being able to get funding from the government, being able to get a good PR around it. So it settles down into what is called the ICCC, Integrated Command and Control Center, wherein they install the devices, they see that all the dashboard. What's not happening is actually creating value out of it, which is where a lot of void is there. So yeah, there's a lot happening. It can't be summed in a one answer.
Okay, that's great. And we have one more question from Priyank. Interesting. Sorry. How can we get started? Shall we wait for the time, and or there are some baby steps for everyone to get started in IoT?
Yeah, no, good question. There is, the time has already started. It's already going, and it will continue for a few years. I think after maybe another 5 years, it will become commoditized. So if you want to get into IoT and have that advantage, the time is now. It was yesterday, it is today, it will be tomorrow. It won't be there for next 10 years. So there are baby steps, and that's where, again, going back to those slides, find out where your competence is. Is your competence into hardware? Is your competence into the application? Is your competence in network between the device and the cloud, or is your competence in the cloud, or your competence is integration? That's a major competence. In the Indian scenario, we have been more oriented towards companies like Infosys, TCS, HCL. They are integrators. So with that, we are very good in integrating multiple providers, and that's where find people who are producing devices, find people who are having applications, try and build an integration layer in between, which is called adapters, and that's a very good way for people who are technical and do not really want to get into a lot of investment with the hardware, or building a brand new product. So that integration layer is a good thing. But then yes, do some homework, try and get understanding of the various components, a little more technology, do a LinkedIn course. That's a good point to start to understand the ecosystem, and then build on your core competence.
That's great. Great, Himanshu, and a lot of appreciation coming up in the chat box. And we are right on time. So thank you, Himanshu, for the wonderful session and helping us know about more about IoT.